2025 was a year with many things, some big, some small, most of which belong in some weird temporal fire at the edge of the universe. On the bright side, we did get quite a few good video games. Sure, that's a good way of looking at things. From new entries in big franchises like Monster Hunter Wilds to high-profile, smaller works like Dispatch to remasters and ports out the wazoo, and Atelier Yumia, and the ever-intriguing world of indie games. But with so many, a lot of games in that last batch probably passed you by, which is why today I'm hosting the first Coven Awards, celebrating the efforts of tiny teams that compensate for lack of major funding with heart and quirk. So if you were understandably too wrapped up in that random re-release of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, hopefully I can shed some light on a few titles that might have slipped you by. This list isn't in any particular order, so don't skip ahead to what I say is the best indie JRPG, because they're all good in different ways. But I can tell you for certain, Expedition 33 isn't anywhere on this list. Haven't even played it. Should I? When everyone was hyped about it, I was playing like Cast and Chill, which is also very good and worth your time. Oh? You don't like fishing? Well, what if I made that fishing an RPG? Sea Fantasy, developed by Metasla, asked the simple question, what if we took the fishing minigame that's so ubiquitous nowadays and turned that into the central focus? The answer to that being a very cute, if gimmicky, RPG. After all, who doesn't like a good fishing minigame? Aside from people with macro fetishes, I suppose. In Sea Fantasy, you take on the role of a young man named Rod. Get it? Who ventures out into the oceans with his best friend Axel to become a great fisherman, until he meets a mythical golden dragon exhausted from an ancient battle, whose vile counterpart is about to return. I won't lie, the story and characters here are pretty plain and dry, ironic for a game all about being around water, but the important thing is just how much the developers get from their central mechanic. Cast your line near some shadows in the water, a fish bites, and you engage in what's basically a short, real-time RPG battle where the fishing bar is a timed attack. You press the button precisely to deal damage while keeping an eye on this symbol here, which shows you taking damage. Somehow. No idea how the fish is hurting you while on the line. Maybe it's a
sheer clash of manly wills.
Honestly, I could understand why Sea Fantasy didn't make waves early last year. At first glance, it feels a bit shallow, but if you allow yourself to be lured in by the novelty of it all, you can get hooked in no time. The systems at play here give a very similar feel of progression as a typical JRPG, with experience points and stat allocation paired alongside a simple crafting system for new gear. Once you get your boat and the chance to explore the world, the pattern of finding new fish with new materials, making new equipment, and locating the newest set piece catch sinks in and eggs you on to keep going. I'm not kidding about those set pieces. Essentially boss fights, boss fish with large health pools and actual attack patterns, plus alterations to the fishing bar, so catching them keeps you on your toes. It's kinetic, exciting, and offers the variety needed in a sea of simple, if fun, repetition. The boss fights are almost like a microcosm of real-life fishing, filtered through the mechanical familiarity of a JRPG. They're neat, is what I'm saying. There are even a few mini sections where you get to play an action platformer as Axel, which are also very charming, if extremely simple. Bobbing out on the open water, charting a course, visiting new areas. This world might not be particularly detailed, but it can be absorbing as you track down your latest mark. So if you're looking for more novelty than one of those singing trout wall plaques, maybe even one wearing a silly hat, give Sea Fantasy a try. How much you enjoy it will almost entirely rely upon how much you enjoy the central gimmick, but again, who doesn't love a good fishing minigame? That's why I'm awarding Sea Fantasy the 2025 Coven Award for most gung-ho gimmickry, laser focused on one silly concept and squeezing it for as much as they could, an ethos I can respect and appreciate. If you can share in that sentiment, you should not let this game drift by. Okay, so what if you're in the market for something less nautical, a bit more conventional? Well, then maybe Quartet is more your style. Something Classic Games, developers of Shadows of Adam, gave us another instance of their namesake with Quartet, and it's probably one of the most ambitious retro-style JRPG to be released last year. It gives you a pool of 4 characters to choose from, experiencing their own prologues before connecting the seemingly disparate stories into one lengthy epic. Alright game, if you're wanting to make me think more fondly of you by reminding me of Wild Arms, you're doing a good job, I approve. I also approve of giving me the option to pick PlayStation buttons for the display, since I'm tired of Xbox controllers being the default and only option. I also approve of optional Oxford commas. Like I said, this game's just super ambitious. The lineup consists of Cordelia, a put-upon magic student who starts investigating strange happenings while running from societal machinations relating to her father, Alexandra, a troubled young woman joined by a talking hippo on a quest to cure her ill mother, Ben, who sets off to find a girl from his childhood after awakening his own magic powers, and Nikolai, whose storyline is that one Nazi joke.
Are we the baddies?
These setups are all I want to say about their stories because they take up several hours by themselves and are just the beginning of a larger, interconnecting narrative loaded with fun characters and themes worth exploring. Each protagonist has a distinct and believable personality shaped by their unique cultures and livelihood, so their reactions to this new destiny foisted upon them are understandably very different from each other. Add in the companions who join each of them and you have a wacky party that really does harken back to the sensibilities of games like Chrono Trigger. Not only is the cast good, but a lot of thought is clearly put into the world as well. Each kingdom you start in has a different view, application, and history related to the magic abilities our characters learn, and they play a large part in everyone's stories. Cordelia's kingdom is all about teaching people magic, while Nikolai's kingdom heavily restricts it to the point he has to carry a special object containing pre-cast spells for use by the military. There are a lot of things going on in Quartet, as evident by the proclaimed 25 to 30 hour runtime, and the density of fun ideas and character interactions means it could very well be one of the best indie JRPGs to come around in a long while. Ben alone deserves some kind of award for his relatably flippant attitude, but you know, I only had the budget for so many pictures, even though I'm the one drawing them. Overall, the stories you see in Quartet make this whole experience feel like a heaping plate of well-crafted comfort food, somewhat predictable, but just surprising enough to be interesting and tasty. The same can be said about combat, where the main shakeup is the AP system, having your skills take from a percentage of your total AP rather than a specific amount. You get a bit back each turn, and there's a guard mechanic to restore a bit more than normal, so there are times in combat where you just need to hold out until you get enough mojo back to abuse an enemy weakness. I'm not gonna say this change provides a massive mental shift from your typical turn-based system, but it does provide a bit more to think about when planning out your moves. The combat itself is fairly solid, and they introduce more nuance once you're past the prologues, but just like most retro JRPGs I like discussing, it isn't gonna be why you pick up Quartet, nor will it be because of the presentation, which is also still very solid and fitting with the era from which it takes most of its inspirations. Both of these aspects are great, don't get me wrong, but I still say the plot and characters should be your primary reason for picking up this game. I'm awarding Quartet with the 2025 Coven Award for a giant bowl of spicy spaghetti. Rest assured, I look forward to polishing off every bite. While we're at it, let's hop on over to another well-executed 16-bit styled entry, but action-flavored. Shrine's Legacy, developed by Positive Concept Games, takes less after Final Fantasy and more after Secret of Evermore or Secret of Mana. The world of Ardemia is doing pretty well for itself. Its people are thriving, the goats are swimming, and things are generally pretty peaceful ever since the evil, otherworldly being known as Aklor was defeated long ago. His downfall, much like Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness, was brought about by a foolish warrior wielding a magic sword. Now, centuries later, that sword is in the hands of humble village boy Rio, who's always dreamed of becoming a great hero in a time of tranquility. Fortunately, and unfortunately, Aklor is back, leaving him with no choice but to take his family's Sword of Shrine and run off with a mysterious woman to gather the elemental gems needed to defeat Aklor once more. Which is going to be tricky since, I mean, look at how big Aklor's sprite is. Dang, where have you been for the past few hundred years? They have a gym in the afterlife? It's a simple premise for a cool fantasy road trip, with each stop being accompanied by a short shrine that all feel distinct with their unique mechanics. Run around, do the slashy slash, kill monsters, get stronger, find new powers, you know how this goes, with each stop shaking things up enough with different approaches to puzzles and fun side characters. It's a good slashy slashing time, if a bit too straightforward for my taste. But hey, that could be solved with co-op. I wouldn't know, I only have one controller, but I imagine it'd be a fun time for those with more. And friends. I guess I'd kind of need one of those too, but at least the world is charming and fun in and of itself. I like the village built upon a dock where you talk to a nutcase old witch and a trio who are literally just a Chowaniki joke. I hope they keep showing up. They're great. I like these guys. And the desert area with the furry couple, they're pretty fun. That valley area is probably my favorite looking section of the game. The colors are just so pleasant. The presentation of Shrine's Legacy is strong, with detailed environments and a wide variety of monster designs that function in unique ways. The soundtrack is solid and really fits the feel of a classic fantasy quest. Full disclosure, I kinda have a hard time selling Shrine's Legacy as well as I'd like, mostly because looking at it should be able to sell you alone. It's a sharp, well-crafted experience with fierce enemies, cool magic, and some very fun puzzles, all of which I'm sure are improved with an additional player. I'm awarding Shrine's Legacy the 2025 Coven Award for a great game that would probably be even better if I had friends. If you're hankering for some classic hack and slash adventuring, especially with the side of co-op, pick this one up as soon as you can. I hope you enjoyed that silliness because it's over now. There can be no more happiness. It's time to get serious and hit those books. Wait, this isn't a book. Curses! Okay, so Wagotabi, A Japanese Journey, might not necessarily be a typical JRPG. It's closer to an educational adventure game, but I think it counts for this list for more reasons than just having the JRPG tag on Steam. You're playing someone going on a pilgrimage across Japan to learn the language, starting in a small village called Takamatsu and immersing yourself in closed-off areas to learn more and more words and phrases. So it's kind of like venturing through a dungeon, but with knowledge instead of violence. There are even little timed quizzes at the end of sections, kind of like boss fights. Plus, I figured most people interested in the genre are at least kind of into the idea of learning Japanese in a way that makes sense to them. And speaking as someone who wasn't able to say much of anything in the language beforehand, I found the lessons extremely approachable. It starts out very simply just asking you to identify some hiragana, then piecing them together into simple words, then stringing those into sentences, then figuring out the syntax of different phrases, and slowly approaching more complex aspects of the language like kanji, negatives, different pronunciations of the same phrase, and so on. It sounds like a lot, which is the problem I've always had when trying to approach learning a new language, but Wagotabi breaks its lessons apart well and relies on classic repetition practice to reinforce those lessons. So you can believe me when I say, "Watashi no kawaii inu wa watashi no ie ni imasu." I mean it. I'm pretty sure I said that correctly at least, and I couldn't even begin to understand how to say that before I played Wagotabi, so that has to count for something. Wagotabi is most certainly not going to be for everyone. Unlike the other entries on this list, it's built for a very specific purpose rather than general entertainment. Walk around, learn at your own pace, maybe tackle some of the mini games to solidify those mysterious moon runes in your floppy synapses. Playing it for maybe half an hour to 40 minutes a day has become a good afternoon ritual for me, and it's at least working for someone like me who's more about puzzle solving than rote memorization. It reminds me a lot of Chants of Sinar, a really fantastic puzzle game all about deciphering different abstract languages to help people communicate from different floors of a tower. Also highly recommended for what it's worth if you're looking for more of an actual video game as opposed to edutainment, but this edutainment is highly satisfying through the gamification of its teaching, so it isn't just a bunch of quiz cards. It's an immersive adventure of exploring a language that might not be as intimidating as one would think. I'm still very early on in my Japanese journey, terrified of learning complex kanji. What do you mean? This is the symbol for house! But I can recommend it for those looking to learn the language at very little expense. It's freaking $10. Like, what are you doing with Rosetta Stone? Get that overpriced, overpromoted crap out of here. I want to talk to tiny pixel people about their dogs and figure out how to talk about dogs in Japanese. And if you want to do that as well, or you just want to read untranslated hentai, that's still totally valid, give Wagotabi a try. I'm giving Wagotabi Japanese Journey the 2025 Coven Award for that one cool teacher in high school. You know the one. Maybe by the end of this I'll be able to cover some of the many untranslated JRPGs for the channel. That'd be pretty awesome. But all of this exploring in Wagotabi makes me think we should take a break. Let's all stand up, take a deep breath, stretch those legs, and take a look outside. Oh wait, no! Look Outside, developed by lone creator Francis Colomb, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say that so many different ways, is the newest iteration of that bizarrely impressive RPG Maker horror game you have to check out. Joining the ranks of Yume Nikki, Mad Father, Fear and Hunger, The Witch's House, Ao Oni, Corpse Party. This game is shockingly well done horror in glorious 16-bit detail. You play as a shut-in named Sam by default, stuck in his apartment building while some bizarre otherworldly event is going on outside that warps reality and turns anyone who witnesses it into a deformed Lovecraftian monster. What's the event? How many people are going crazy? Can we do anything about it? Why did they make a monster out of teeth? I hate it so much. Well, you have to find out by venturing outside your apartment every day. You can't just just stay inside playing that NES until it all blows over. Nope, each day you have to brush your teeth, wash your face, venture outside, and witness the horrors that have become of your neighbors, like a functional member of society. Over the course of 14 days, you must explore the apartment building, making it further and further each venture, finding food, healing items, new video games, equipment, and various odds and ends as you try to find something, anything, that might help you find a solution or just get to the end with as little mental or physical scarring as possible. And while you're out poking around, you're likely to come across some wacky side characters in various states of terrifying to give you a guiding mission. Maybe you'll find the group of robed cultist guys who need you to help find a strange painting that depicts something to do with the event, or the possible Junji Ito reference trapped in a pipe to find some letter writing supplies. There's just such a wide variety of strange and unpredictable encounters as you try your best to make it to the next day, and knowing which ones are friendly or frightening is almost entirely a coin toss. It's a fierce, nerve-wracking process, stepping out into the unknown while hoping beyond hope to reach the next save icon in your progress bar. Yeah, if the tension of classic survival horror gameplay in such a familiar but surreal nightmare wasn't enough, you have to explore quite a ways from your apartment just to earn the privilege of saving your progress at the one save point in the game. Such an evil, devilish inclusion. I respect and hate you in equal measure, Mr. Column. You can only rest at the end of each day, the rest of your time trying to find some light of hope to hold on to in a seemingly hopeless time. It's a great cycle that provides genuine tension as you try making progress towards whatever nonsense you're trying to achieve. All that wonderfully anxiety-inducing gameplay is amplified by the game's presentation. Look Outside is decked out in its finest purples, oranges, browns, and blacks in service of delivering the most oppressive atmosphere possible. The overworld is just detailed enough to be believable while keeping you in the literal and figurative dark as you explore. And the places and people you can find by exploring are shocking for their visuals along with their context. And that sound design is just amazing, as any good horror game should have. As I hear the clicks and creaks in that hallway as I stare into the abyss, I know, for a gosh darn fact, I want nothing to do with anything here. Maybe it won't be that bad. Look Outside is a terrifically tense horror RPG, one I recommend if you're more a Kodelka fan than a Shadow Hearts one. I want to see what's there, reach the end, survive, help those I've met, and unravel this unknowable phenomenon as best I can. I'm giving Look Outside the 2025 Coven Award for game I probably shouldn't have played while moving into my own apartment. I'm already paranoid. This did not help, but I doubt you're in that same position, so give Mr. Column some applause and maybe a purchase. This is clearly a passion project, and it's great how much it caught on last year. But if that's too much for you, maybe School Life is more your speed. Demon School, to be precise, developed by Necrosoft Games, who have also made Gun House and Hyper Gun Sports. This is a tactical RPG inspired by the likes of Shin Megami Tensei, and also Shin Megami Tensei, with maybe a bit of Shin Megami Tensei. I think the developers were fans of Shin Megami Tensei, which certainly isn't a bad thing. More games should borrow from S&T besides just Persona. This game is visually stunning, like a more punk, pixelated version of what Kazuma Kaneko brings to the Atlas table. Sharp, clean, and full of personality, Demon School punches you in the face with style and proceeds to wail on you with a baseball bat of personal flair. It's almost the end of the millennium, October 1999, and a group of oddball misfits coincidentally gathered together on the mysterious Hemsk Island as new college students. Faye is an enthusiastic young woman who's the last of the world's demon hunters, following a strange prophecy saying the apocalypse is approaching. Namiko, the nervous photographer who totally isn't goth, for sure. Destin, the big dumb jock dude bro who really likes giant snakes for some reason. And then there's I think that's pronounced Newt. He's a gung-ho obscure media nerd and ardent pacifist. Let me tell you, the one problem I have with diversity is how dumb I feel not knowing how names are pronounced. This ragtag group of weirdos is assigned special tasks by their lackadaisical teacher who seems to know more than he's letting on, or at least his clipboard does, in preparation for the upcoming apocalypse, which brings them into conflict with local gangsters who also seem to know both way more and nothing at all about what's going on, the principal who's much the same but is a lot angrier about it, and odd events nobody seems to remember. There are so many things that just don't sit right. Strange behaviors abound, and it's a mystery whether or not the people you know are even on your side. Except your friends. They're probably too doofy to be lying to you. The Black Magic Club members are pretty endearing, from Namiko's bookish disposition clashing with Faye's very unhinged attitude, to Newt's nerdy enthusiasm for old movies, and Destin's a propensity for punching TVs. They're a fun group with loads of great lines and interactions, including the social link-esque system, which improves from special events as well as specific bonus sections like quizzes. You can even do karaoke, which comes with its own minigame. So the story, characters, visuals, music, atmosphere, all pretty fantastic. Where I was worried is the combat itself. Full disclosure, I'm not a tactics person, nor a tic-tacs person, so I was concerned the actual gameplay would prevent me from getting into Demon School. However, it was a pleasant surprise to see it functions closer to a puzzle game than anything like Disgaea or Final Fantasy Tactics, a puzzle game with demon murder, which is the best kind. Encounters in this game are split between planning and action phases. The planning phase is where you plot out all moves for all characters, with each one having a specific role in battle. Brawlers deal 1 point of damage on hit, but you have support roles with Namako and Newt to increase damage, with everyone in the fight only having about 3 HP at most. The goal isn't to kill everyone who shows up, but to kill a certain amount of them and have a character stand on the back line to seal the portal. Characters can move any number of times, but it costs 1 more from a shared pool of action points you have for the whole round. This knowable, simplified take on tactical gameplay is much more welcoming to me personally, without the absurd level grind of series like Disgaea or the complexity of job systems from other tactics games. Plus, once you settle on all your turns, you get to see them play out in a gratifying display of action and movement not shown in strategy RPGs very often. You even get to see these awesome cut-ins when characters combine their techniques. It's flashy. They didn't have to do that, but it looks really cool, and I like it. There are no level ups, no flanking, no inching your way forward. It really is more of a puzzle game than a tactics one, which is all fine by me. Demon School is the coolest game I'm looking at in this video, and an easy recommendation for fans of its inspiration. If this character art looks appealing to you, it's pretty easy to say you'll probably enjoy the whole experience. I'm giving Demon School the 2025 Coven Award for actually looking at the explosion because the explosion looks awesome. And if you do check this out, make sure to tell the van man I sent you. Speaking of art, let's talk about what might very well be one of the most gorgeous games I've played in a long time. Artist Impact, developed by the solo creator known as Moss, is an absolute feast for the eyes. Splendid color palettes, detailed environments depicting solemn snowfields or bustling grimy cities, just so many animation frames, these motion comic cutscenes. Love it, love it, love it! How is this made in RPG Maker MV? The talent on display is, quite frankly, gobsmacking. My smack is well and truly gobbed. Why does that sound so wrong? But this game is far more than a pretty face. It's also a bizarre and endearing story about an oddball girl and her robot companion looking for a future in a world that feels destined to perish. Akane is a mysterious woman new to the peacekeeping Aelith organization, using her high-tech sword and said robot to battle evil AI threatening civilization. Along her journey, she's also trying to uncover her past and find her identity. Which all sounds very heavy, but Artist Impact is one of the goofiest games in this video. Akane is such a doofy protagonist, acting all giddy when she volunteers for an assignment, or talking about the mochi mochi she'll get at the resort, or being way too excited at the idea of a robot being nearby. She's very quirky, but equally charming, I must admit. She's not the only one to watch out for. This game is full of wacky and strange characters with their own hang-ups and exchanges. Even the people you encounter briefly have enough quirk to at least make the moment memorable. There was a guy selling fake attack guides that do literally nothing, a gang of thieves Akane just gives her wallet to despite easily being able to thrash them, Akane's kindly old neighbors, and so on. This world is strange, melancholic, and slightly surreal, but always with something interesting to find around the corner. And so many of them have unique motion panel comics just because. Like, I'm looking at a door. You didn't need to draw these panels, Moss, but you did, and I am in awe. That's how you know something is made with pure love and passion, and this kind of thing is everywhere in Artist Impact. This world is tragic and full of life, and I want to see what's on the other side of the story if it means helping the characters around Akane. But when things get serious, it pulls that off just as well. If I have one problem, it's really just how the combat is kinda simple. Akane is the only person you control. She has limited skills or a basic attack, and Bot just kind of hangs out doing some repeating action. I think the enemies might have weaknesses, but all your skills are various sword slashes, so I can never remember if they even have different elements. Sometimes the difficulty is just weird. I had to lower the difficulty to story mode at a certain section because the enemies were just absurdly powerful and killing me over and over, but it's not like I could have grinded in previous sections or leveled up some other way, so I was just stuck. Maybe that was intentional, but it was more frustrating than artistically interesting. But even in that instance, man, It's too gorgeous for me to be upset about. Look at the background, it's like a pop-out window, that's adorable. The combat is still passable, just a bit too simplistic for how well everything else is done, but those are all pretty small potatoes because I had a lot of fun with Artist Impact. As an artist, I respect and admire all the hard work and love that went into this game, and it actually helped me get a bit of motivation for my own artistic pursuits. I'm giving Artist Impact the 2025 Coven Award for warm soup for an artist's soul. Yes, it's another food metaphor. Food can be artistic too. For evidence, look at this scene in Artist Impact. I rest my case. Okay, I think that's enough art for now. It's time for garbage. Kingdoms of the Dump, developed by 2 janitors under the banner of Roach Games, charming, is ironically one of the cleanest and most polished games on this list. Once again, being a callback to the SNES era of 16-bit classics, it tells the wholesome tale of Dustin Binsley, the best named protagonist of the year, as he sets out on a journey to prove his worth as a knight to both others and himself. The venerable King Globespin has been kidnapped by the dastardly gang leader Rutilius, and since today was the day Dustin was assigned to guard the king, people aren't too happy with his apparent lack of dedication. So, with his buddy Ratavia in tow, he makes it his mission to rescue the king, prove his mettle, and show he can be a reliable protector of the lands of Phil. Man, I love this game. Kingdoms of the Dump is good old Saturday morning cartoon fare between all the goofy names, the gung-ho hero, not to mention all the jokes, which makes it immediately endearing as a work of fantasy. Dustin clearly isn't where he's meant to be in life, slacking off despite his apparent desire to become a great knight, and now's the time to buckle down and do all he can to not only redeem himself, but also maybe make the land better than before. The characters and world really do make this game a treasure of trash without a single human character in sight. Everything and everyone is some kind of reinterpretation or iteration of anthropomorphic animal, sentient garbage, or living appliance. The palace guards are guardboard boxes. The postman is literally a mailbox. You have nobles like Lord Plastique and Minister Beanbag. Dustin's rival is a swashbuckling recycling bin named Blue Bin. There's even a living wallet info broker. It doesn't end there, with enemies in battle having even more silly equivalents. No slimes, but you do have living garbage bags. Instead of bats, you have flying fans. And how about a mimic that's a giant fridge? Such a fun concept and wonderfully executed. Kingdoms of the Dump is just overflowing with whimsy and fantasy, most of which is based around puns and wordplay, which gives it extra points with me. I love this stuff, like the village of ant farmers being ruled over by Antilla, which is a double pun and therefore double points. There's a little gathering of merchants in Bug City, a flea market, if you will. If you like wordplay like that, this is absolutely the game for you. It's chock full of stuff like this, and it makes the game memorable just for how silly it can be despite not being mechanically different. Speaking of mechanics, this might be the closest game on the list to really replicating the look and feel of 16-bit era games, but with a few tweaks to accommodate for modern sensibilities. The presentation is Swedish chef's kiss, with the Mode 7 scrolling overworld looking particularly spot on. Moving only has 3 to 5 frames of animation, and the sprites are just chunky enough to be adorable. The UI is classic and clean despite everything being about, literal dirt and garbage, and the music sounds like it comes right from around 1994, Enix hidden gems like Robo-Trek or Soul Blazer. The combat is much the same, although it feels closer to something like Rhapsody than Final Fantasy VI. Turn-based, overworld enemies to trigger encounters, grid movement with slight strategic considerations for things like damage related to distance, and panels with unique debuffs. It also includes timed hits like Super Mario RPG, just for a direct mechanical reference from the era. The MP system is also really neat, collecting and spending a shared pool called medals to activate skills. Skills you can pick and swap around as you level up and unlock more, which adds another layer of consideration to battle. And those super moves called boiling points are just a sight to behold. You probably noticed I only have 2 party members for my footage despite there being more, and the reason is, well, 1, I wanted to actually get this video out before March, and 2, I don't want to spoil the kooky, silly characters you'll gather along the way, but let me say, they are just as great. Kingdoms of the Dump is a great game, classic and full of just as much love as stupid puns. It might very well be the most plainly fun game I played for this video, and the one I most recommend for those just looking for a straightforwardly old school JRPG with heaps of charm. I'm giving Kingdoms of the Dump the 2025 Coven Award for punniest game. which is probably the best award I can give, honestly. But you might have noticed this showcase isn't quite done yet, because despite what I just said about Kingdoms of the Dump and the list not being in any particular order, I do have one game I genuinely think is my favorite of the batch. But before we get to that, let's cover some of the other games I recommend but didn't make the award list for one reason or another. Still worth your time, I just didn't have as much to say about them. So, time for an honorable mentions lightning round. Disclaimer, probably won't be as fast as lightning. Starlight Legacy, developed by Decathe Soft, is maybe the most overlooked game in this video. Seeing the promo art on Steam, I sadly can't blame people for ignoring it. That's not to say it's bad, it's actually quite fitting. This is a game that feels less like a 16-bit era jive and closer to a GBA remake of such games, and that art feels fitting even if it makes the adult protagonist look about 8 years old. In the Sky province of Bavaria, the king is refusing to lift the ancient law preventing the use of magic, prompting a separatist movement to rise up and enact destructive protests like burning one of the eternity trees keeping magic in balance. So the king sends a trio of largely unprepared warriors, Terrell, Ignis, and Frida, on a journey to find the Starlight relics and restore the eternity tree. Nice and straightforward with fun banter between his likable party members and the tension of knowing you might not be fighting for the right side when everything shakes out. Combat is similarly straightforward with HP and MP plus a little rage meter to temporarily increase stats when full. There's also the matter of learning and equipping different spells, which gives you a degree of customization for your limited party. Honestly, aside from some odd lack of conveyance for what you need to make progress at points, Starlight Legacy is a cute, snacky sort of JRPG that's been undeservedly ignored. Seriously, it only has 18 reviews on Steam. That is a crime. If you're more for 8-bit than 16-bit, check out Geomythica by Queen Entertainment. Taking more after the original Zelda and Star Tropics than the likes of Final Fantasy, it's a quirky action RPG with a plot all about real-world geography. Starting out in 1990s Californian suburbs, kind-hearted football star Geo finds himself caught up in a bizarre, mythical conspiracy of underground magic, evil corporations, and globe-trotting adventure. An adventure that leads you to several dungeons where he must fight monsters alongside new allies with a diverse array of abilities. I say this game is more like Star Tropics because first, the characters do kind of look like good old Mike Jones, but also because the overworld exploration is paired alongside dungeon crawling, which is itself divided between adventure and combat modes. Once you find some monsters, Geo whips out his kendo sword and starts slashing away, building up fury points to spend on skills like taunting. Meanwhile, you have allies with slight control doing their own thing to help you out, like Liliana and her sleep shot. Geomythica is a fun action RPG with a lighthearted atmosphere and interesting mechanics, so check it out if you're yearning for a new take on the under-referenced classic that is Star Tropics. I'm sure you are absolutely starving at this point if that's the case. Keeping that train of games inspired by more specific 8-bit titles than usual, we have Splintered by Dotmake Studios, a trimmed-down, simplified take on old-school Dragon Quest with a story incorporating its roguelike elements. Yep, we've got roguelike JRPGs now. Not because they asked if they should, but because they asked if they could. With a simple story of gathering sacred items stolen by an evil something or other, you venture out into the world to reclaim them and put a stop to their evil plans. With a first-person battle perspective and black and white UI, it's clear Splintered is essentially an upgraded randomizer for Dragon Quests of old. Once you reach a certain point in the story, the world starts getting twisted and topsy-turvied as the villain turns back time. So if you're down with the idea of RNG but not the action-oriented gameplay it lends itself towards, Splintered is worth a look. Not only is that novelty intriguing, it features fun progression like gear that levels up to unlock new passive bonuses and spells that can be strengthened the more you battle. You have to stay on your toes and always be experimenting to reach the end, wherever it was put this time. Plus, if you play it enough, you can tack on additional features and parameters, resulting in a simple game you can potentially play for dozens of hours. A year can't go by in indie JRPG land without someone making an Earthbound, and this year we have Dreamed Away. Okay, well, I'm sure there are more, but this is the one I played. Another solo effort, this time by Nicholas Pettin, Dreamed Away leans much more into the surreal horror elements of everyone's favorite game nobody actually bought. Taking place in 1992, you play as Theo, whose world quickly turns bizarre when a series of strange events happen around his house. Seeing his sister Louise disappear into a mirror, he braves an otherworldly reality to save her. Nothing too high concept, I think they just really wanted to get to the surreal stuff as quickly as possible, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those eyes though, I don't like those. Get them away. Combat is closer to Undertale though, where you participate in mini-games and minor bullet hell segments. No option to spare though, because the French have no mercy, I guess. Dreamed Away is pretty neat if you're looking for something more on the adventure side, and it isn't for you if you're sick of games being inspired by Earthbound, which must be very difficult for you. You also can't go too long without a creature catcher. Pipkin by Greg Dude is a short, sweet, snacky one of those themed after Halloween. So it's all fall foliage and ooky spooky spoops as far as the eye can see. And all of it is gorgeous. Just look at some of these enemy sprites. Actually look at all of them, because they deserve it. You even get to customize your character, picking between the 3 genders of boy, girl, or bonus character, plus the role you want to play in your party and the type of attacks you use. Then anime Dr. Frankenstein kills you and you wander off to do whatever. Go trick-or-treating maybe, I don't know. The battle system's main shtick is how party composition functions more like Shin Megami Tensei rather than that of Pokemon, with your captured Pipkins acting as additional party members. I'll be honest, I don't have much to say about this one because I haven't played very far into it and I don't like creature catchers, but I figured it would be good to spread the word because I know people who do like them really like them. Also, this banana snake is called Banandit. Wonderful, no notes, it's perfect. Okay, that's all the honorable mentions. So, who's the grand prize winner? In all honesty, Stray Children is far from what I would consider the best game of this video. If you want to approach it from most angles, it loses out in most aspects of other titles I've shown, and I'm not even sure I can recommend it to most people. It has very obtuse and awkward designs, the combat can be wonky, and the story is frankly bonkers, but I'm putting it as my final game for this video because out of everything I played for this list, it's the one that makes me consider the most. Onion Games is a group made up of auteur developers from Japan, a team consisting of people who have worked on games like Tulip, Rule of Rose, and Moon, among others. That's a lineup of quirky, unconventional gold right there, and Stray Children is actually a successor to Moon in particular. Playing as a small, dog-faced child in a hoodie, you find yourself alone at home when a mysterious man knocks at the door. Despite everything sensible telling you it's a bad idea, you follow him to a secret room in the train platform where he tells you your dad is trapped inside an unreleased game cartridge. Warping into the game, you find everything is wrong. The hero wanders aimlessly, the people of the town have given up all hope, and even the villain is tired of sitting around waiting for you, the player. The world of the game is deteriorating because no one was able to experience it, to live through the world and give these characters purpose. So wanting to leave the game, you walk up to the villain and accidentally trigger the apocalypse. Stuck in a seemingly new world populated by PG Lord of the Flies-esque children, you travel about bringing peace to strange creatures called Olders in hopes of finding your father and a way out. The battles with the Olders is most of the gameplay in Stray Children, consisting of exploring the overworld, finding their statues, and then battling them one-on-one. And like Undertale, you can choose to fight or talk to them, with the latter being the only way to permanently release them from the encounters. It's also much more difficult, requiring a good, long look at their entries in the bestiary to puzzle together a solution. For example, the Sloth Bell Olders spells out sloth in his entry, so you pick the topics that spell out that word with each first letter. It's a bit tedious, and some can be, like I said, more obtuse than engaging, but it certainly isn't boring or standard, and if you're looking at the combat thinking it looks like Undertale, that's not a coincidence. The creator, Yoshiro Kimura, directly cites their friendship with Toby Fox as a reason for making this game after so long. Kimura also directed Moon, a quirky, subversive RPG from the late 90s that would go on to inspire Toby Fox, a game about love and kindness in opposition to the idea games only had to be about strength and conflict. Seeing Undertale do so well gave Kimura the realization, hey, I could still make those weird games. I should make those weird games. Their friendship was even the catalyst for getting Moon officially translated and released on modern platforms after 2 decades being exclusive to Japan. You should absolutely go play Moon, by the way. But despite how much I love this game, I don't actually want to talk about it much here, partially because it's been a long video and I need to wrap it up, but also because Stray Children is something I think people should experience almost totally blind if they think it looks interesting to them. I've said about several games in this list feeling like true labors of love, but this one is a bit different. It feels like love honed by time, by age and self-reflection. This game has such a distinct, one-of-a-kind atmosphere of bizarre nonsense, whimsy, and genuine melancholy I don't think I've found in any other JRPG, not even Moon. The enemies you fight are embodiments of adults viewed and embodying their own inadequacies in the modern world, glimpsed through the lens of a child who just wants to help them, helping them overcome their insecurities, to become better people, to remember why life is worth living in spite of all the hardship, even if one of them attacks you with the old Twitter logo. I told you, this game's weird. Stray Children is a game I want to not only finish, but analyze and dissect. I want to comb every bit of it and listen to what the developers want to tell me. And I hope you're willing to listen as well should you give this game a chance. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But art isn't meant to be. It never can be, and it never should. It is the raw expression of humanity, and what you see in it is what makes it truly art. This is a game that goes beyond simple discussion of mechanics or presentation. Look at this game. Does it look interesting to you? Well, go play it if it does. Support them. Show them you love their art. It means the world to creators. That's why I'm awarding Stray Children the 2025 Coven Award for genuinely my favorite indie JRPG of the year. It's far from perfect, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, that's all I have to talk about here. This was a lot longer than I thought it'd be, like that's anything new on this channel, but still, I am just one person working on this stuff largely by myself, so I'm sure I've missed quite a lot. If an indie JRPG you like wasn't in this video, please let me and everyone else know about it in the comments below. And if this goes over well, maybe I'll do it next year. Speaking of next year, I have an announcement for anyone still watching. I plan to make a serious push this year for this channel to really become something substantial. I doubt it'll skyrocket in a month from now, but we've already hit 2,500 subscribers, which I've been told is nothing to sneeze at. My recording setup is all put together, I have my own place where no one can bother me, and a list of titles to cover as long as my arm. So if you would like to support me in this endeavor, talking about retro JRPGs, please subscribe and all that jive. Maybe even visit my new Patreon, where I'll be sharing ad-free versions of videos, behind-the-scenes updates, and just random thoughts as I push myself as best I can this year. But whether you do any of that or not, I hope you enjoyed this video, and you have a good 2026. Bye for now.